Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. The military is experimenting with troops bringing their own cellular devices to work. But is that safe? One Army veteran has been working to make a more secure way for service members to access email, Teams, and other CAC-enabled websites from their cell phones. Army vet Jared Shepard took his tech experience building infrastructure in Iraq to the private sector with his company, Hypori, which aims to improve digital security for mobile devices. A pilot program he started with the Army has also inspired a similar Air Force initiative. Here's what Shepard said about how he's trying to help the military realize the vision of using personal devices without them being compromised.
If you're a guardsman or a reservist and you have a day job or you're at home with your family, how do you access the internet? How do you access work stuff but not have to come into work to do it? The vision of Hypori was help solve that problem, protect the Department of Defense data against nation-state adversaries, but enable you to access the Department of Defense data in a way that doesn't risk your personal privacy or the data that's in transit or at rest. Hey, how can I do the normal work I have to do on a daily basis as a leader, as myself as a former non-commissioned officer? How can I do what I used to have to do, but I'd prefer to do it from home on my living room floor with my kids watching a football game, and I can knock out that work rather than having to spend a Saturday in the office. Now I can do it from anywhere. And that's what the Army is trying to get to, and that's what now the Air Force and Space Force are trying to get to, is how do we empower our service members to have access from anywhere in a convenient way, not in an overarching, like we're gonna make you do things all the time, but in a way in which enables you to have more flexibility and security from your own platform of choice. Space Force are actually already using our platform today, Hypori's platform today, and now they're going to scale. So by July, they're actually going to scale it out and increase the platform across the Air Force and Space Force. The Army's already has 50,000 and is getting ready to expand. I mean, to note, so the BYOD program in the Army, it's not just Hypori, it's also Azure Virtual Desktop. So if you need a laptop capability and you want to get to Windows, you use Azure Virtual Desktop. If you want a mobile capability, you can from a phone or tablet, you use Hypori. The government has a very hard challenge of trying to figure out how they're going to enforce that protection of data, right? And CMMC is kind of the manifestation of what that means. But it's very real, and people think this is just government oversight. It's not. This is, TikTok is not a social media platform. TikTok is a nation-state adversary platform. It is used specifically to collect and manipulate data. And if we're doing that from the same platform that you're also accessing CUI data, or you're creating information for the government that's sensitive to the government's need, we have a responsibility as industry to protect against that. The currency of the world today is data. It's not anything else. It's not money, it's not anything else, it's data. If the data touches the network, it's accessible. And that's one of the challenges I have, from a technology standpoint. We hear lots of companies who say, oh, well, but I encrypt it. Well, where? On the edge device? But it was unencrypted and handled at multiple places. It was handled by the processor, it was handled by a transmission mechanism, it was sent across the network. So it's exposed in all different types of places, right? And there is no one solution. So the idea of zero trust, everybody talks about zero trust now, right? Zero trust is not a technology. It is an idea. It is a methodology in which you implement security practices to ensure that not only do you protect your data, but you protect who's accessing the data. You trust nobody, validate everything.
Shepard also spoke about his nonprofit, Warrior Ethos, and the fact that roughly 2/3 of veterans have trouble transitioning from military to civilian life.
I was a young man with hardships that joined the Army, and the Army became my foundation in life, right? Whether it's my moral or ethical compass, my fundamentals of leadership, being an infantryman, being a non-commissioned officer, it became the basis in which I became as a businessman, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist. The Army was at the core of all of that for me. The military as a whole produces good men and women who have great basic values, patriotism, leadership characteristics, and fundamental understanding of how to make things happen. And when you hear anything bad about anybody who's ever served in the military, any of the bad statistics that are out there, divorce, homelessness, suicide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My theory is that those are all transition failures. That was a failure from the time that they took off the uniform for them to learn how to do the next thing. They don't need a lot of help. They just need a little bit of orientation. They need a little bit of access to tools and capabilities. They need a little bit of mentoring and coaching. And then cut them loose and they're gonna go crush the world, right? They're gonna go do great things. Warriors Ethos helps veterans in transition out of the military. Ideally, we get veterans who are 12 months out from service. They come in and roll into Warriors Ethos. We help them with resume prep. We help them with interview skills. We help them understand how to prioritize and actually create a plan for what transition looks like. And we'll even help them understand, like when they get that first offer letter, what that actually means. What does synthetic equity mean versus what does shares mean? What does options mean? How does that equate? What should your tax plan be? Because now you're in the military and all of a sudden you get out of the military and you're getting taxed for a whole bunch of new things that you were never taxed for before. All these things are a challenge for veterans, but not one that's insurmountable, just one that needs to be provided for. Veterans hit above their weight class, right? Veterans, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, whether it's leaders in business, leaders in politics, or, as I often say, just leaders at home, right? Being able to be present and be good mothers and fathers, for their kids and being able to give their kids opportunity. We owe that to them after their service to the country. So that's what Warriors Ethos is there for, and that's what we do.